Thank you for joining us on This Is Exclusive. Ladies and gentlemen, this afternoon, another Indian Air Force jet. It's a Jaguar. Another Jaguar trainer that is crashed in Churu, Rajasthan. In April this year, ladies and gentlemen, in the year 2017, there was a report that was put out on the Jaguar fleet. And Republic brought those details to the public in April this year. And since April this year, there have been 3 Jaguar jet crashes, and tonight on the show we have more exclusive details of what went wrong in Churu. As the court of inquiry begins, we have more details on the show, and an expert and someone who's handled the Jaguar fleet for many years, for a large part of his career, is joining us live on the show on This Is Exclusive. Here are the headlines tonight. Another Indian Air Force Jaguar fighter jet crashes in Rajasthan's Churu. Focus back on the CAG warnings on the Jaguar fleet. Last minute negotiations underway as Kerala nurse Nimisha Priya is set to be executed on the 16th of July by Yemen. "23 Indian pilgrims stranded in Tibet. Crossover to Nepal. Immigration process underway." After MNS Shiv Sena MLA Sanjay Gaikwad now seen in a slapgate episode, the Chief Minister of Maharashtra condemns the incident, says power cannot be misused. A tragic reminder on top of the show of the risks our brave airmen take in the line of duty. A twin-seater Jaguar fighter jet of the Indian Air Force this afternoon crashed in Rajasthan's Churu district during a routine training mission, killing both pilots on board. Now, one of them, in an extraordinary act of courage, reportedly chose not to eject, steering the jet away from a populated area to save civilian lives. Now, these are initial details that are coming in. But what is very important, ladies and gentlemen, this marks the 3rd Jaguar crash in just 4 months. Once again putting the spotlight on the aging fleet that has been red flagged already.
A twin-seater Jaguar fighter jet of the Indian Air Force crashed in a field in Rajasthan's Churu district this afternoon. The aircraft, which had taken off from Suratgarh Air Base, was part of a routine training mission. The jet crashed during flight exercises, leading to a massive blaze at the impact site. Rescue teams arrived promptly, supported by IAF helicopters airlifted for the mission. Despite the immediate response, both pilots on board the aircraft tragically lost their lives. Officials have revealed that one of the pilots deliberately chose not to eject, hoping instead to steer the failing jet away from a densely populated area, likely preventing a larger tragedy.
जो जनप्रतिनिधि है वो यहाँ पहुँचे हैं, इसके अलावा ग्रामीण है, उनकी भीड़ लग गई है। मैं यहाँ दिखाना चाहूँगा कि ये जो गड्ढा है, यहाँ पर प्लेन क्रैश हुआ था, वो जो जेट है वो क्रैश हुआ है यहाँ पर, और जो पायलट है उनकी सूझबूझ से ये बड़ा हादसा टल गया, वरना ये अगर गांव में गिरता तो बड़ा हादसा हो सकता था, लेकिन पायलट की सूझबूझ से उन्होंने दूर गांव से दूर एक खेत के अंदर इसको क्रैश करवाया।
The Indian Air Force confirmed the crash in an official statement, adding that no civilian property was damaged.
प्लेन क्रैश होने के बाद एकदम धुआं गोवा कोई गंदित रहा, और उसमें जो भी मतलब पायलट साहब जो आता ऑन एक्सपायर हो गए, उनकी जो बॉडी के पार्ट्स मिले अलग अलग मिले हैं, वैसे बयान उपलब्ध भी कराया दिया भी है धंधों में, और एक एयरफोर्स की डायरी भी मिली, साथ में एक एयरफोर्स की डायरी भी मिली थी, वो एयरफोर्स की डायरी हमने SHO राजेंद्र कमल जी को दे दिया।
The crash in Churu marks the 3rd Jaguar crash in just 4 months. In March, a Jaguar went down near Panchkula in Haryana, where the pilot ejected safely. While in April, another crash occurred during a night sortie over Gujarat, claiming the life of one pilot. As investigations continue, this latest incident raises growing concerns over the aging Jaguar fleet and operational safety.
First up on the crash in Churu, Rajasthan, I have some breaking details that are coming in. Of course, there is a court of inquiry that has been ordered by the Indian Air Force, but I have some breaking details. Now, these are not official source-based details that we have. That the aircraft, the Jaguar jet, was fitted with a 00, what is called a 00 ejection seat, which means that the pilot and the co-pilot could have ejected at 0 speed, 0 elevation, and the fact that both pilots perished in this crash points to perhaps a catastrophic technical failure. Ishan, my colleague, has more details on that. I'll quickly get in a word from Ishan before we go across to our expert this evening. Ishan, what does this mean? 00 ejection seats, and looking at what we know, of course, we'll wait for the court of inquiry, but what are the initial details you're picking up?
The 00 ejection seat is a system developed by mostly Western Air Forces. This has a rocket-enabled ejection seat which can help the pilot eject at 0 speed and 0 altitude, thereby enabling our pilots and enhancing safety for the pilots. However, the non-ejection of the pilots in this case shows the bravery, and the decision, as reported, shows that they chose to pay the supreme sacrifice and save the civilians. Furthermore, we have learned that the aircraft was doing a low altitude training mission. These are routine missions for this aircraft, and they are part of the training of the new inductees in the airport.
Yeah. Thank you for joining us with those inputs, Ishan. Now, I want to once again point out to what Republic TV had reported a few months back in April this year, and to speak about the 2017 CAG report, and especially the concern around the Jaguar fleet. I have with me this evening Air Commodore Ashminder Singh Behel, who's a former Jaguar pilot, and he's an air safety expert, a gallantry awardee as well, someone who spent a lot of time inside the cockpit of the Jaguar. Thank you, Air Commodore, for joining us on the broadcast. You know these birds very, very well. You know these jets well. It's been red flagged for many, many years. What is the problem in replacing the Jaguar fleet? Where are the concerns according to you?
The first thing that I want to say, it's very tragic that we have lost two brave pilots who tried to save the people who were below on the ground. And it is the primary responsibility of all pilots in the Indian Air Force to make sure that our brethren below do not get hurt by our aircraft accidents as far as possible. Secondly, I want to highlight that this aircraft was procured in 1979. And in 1980, its license production started in HAL. So it's been about 45 years since the first batch of aircraft had come in. So even if we look at that batch not being the key batch, we still say that these aircraft have been around for a period of 30 to 40 years, depending on when they were inducted. So the most important point is that the aircraft are getting old, and they were expected to be phased from 2027 to 28, but are getting delayed primarily because we do not have sufficient squadrons of fighter aircraft. Currently, we have 30 squadrons, which includes about 13 squadrons of Sukhoi 30, 2 squadrons of Rafale, 2 squadrons of LCA, and then we have close to 12 squadrons, 6 squadrons of Jaguar, 3 squadrons of Mirages, 3 squadrons of MiG-29. These 12 squadrons are fairly old and are completing their life of between 35 to 40 years, which means the structural fatigue sets in when these aircraft grow old. So we had put in this request to the government around 15 years back, when the process for procuring Rafale had started. In the end, we were able to take off the shelf 36 aircraft. Had we taken 126 at that time, we wouldn't have faced the problem that we are facing today, that we are retiring the aircraft, but we do not have any in line to take their place, which means that our squadron strength from the sanctioned 42 squadrons has already dropped to 30 squadrons and is continuing to drop as we retire these aircraft in the coming years. And yet, when we know that our operational strength required is a certain X number, we want that these aircraft should continue to run as far as possible whilst flying safely. And at the same time, we intend that once the LCA start coming in, we fill in the gap with 114 aircraft, MRFA aircraft. And there is also a proposal to get 2 squadrons or so of Su-57 aircraft or the F-35, and that could fill in short gap arrangements. So these proposals are going around on media. I'm sure that the government must be taking this very seriously, and also the Defense Secretary must be taking this very seriously, that these aircraft are growing old, the pilots are at risk. It is not that the aircraft are not flyworthy. It is not that the aircraft are not safe. But the problem is the machine is getting old. There is a fatigue factor setting in the airframe and engines. The engines are usually underpowered of Rolls-Royce Adore Mark 811. And they have been creating problems both because they are underpowered, and secondly, there have been instances with the engines too in the past. Therefore, it is extremely necessary that though there is a plan to get the Mark 1As in, and there was a delay because of the engines not coming GE 404 from America and the integration of Astra that is going to be done in August this year. But we are not going to get 6 LCA aircraft Mark 1A by March 2026 and 16 by March 2027.
Well, very, very detailed, take on why the Jaguar fleet continues to ail the Indian Air Force. Thank you, Air Commodore Behel, for joining us on the show this evening. Now, talking about the 2017 CAG report that we broke details of on Republic TV, these are some of the warnings that were given. The CAG Jaguar Warnings spoke about the autopilot installation delays, specifically mentioned in 2017. The audit reports pointed out at delays in the autopilot procurement and installation, especially on the Jaguar fleet. It also mentioned the impact of the reduced operational efficiency of the Jaguar fleet, 100 plus in number. The report also pointed at inadequate upkeep of the IL series aircrafts mirrored in the Jaguar fleet challenges. Now, these are some of the details of the report that came out in 2017. Non-functional. Now, these are some more details of what that report red flagged. Non-functional under-vehicle scanning system in place, which compromised base security. It spoke of different details that needed to be addressed immediately. And this was in 2017. We are in 2025. And just in the last 4 months, we've had 3 crashes. Let's look at the next graphic that talks about all the red flags for the Indian Air Force when it came to the CAG's Jaguar warning. There were specifically a few points that were highlighted. Point number 1, the aging airframe that Air Commodore Behel just spoke about on This Is Exclusive, saying that they've been in service for over 40 years, nearly 45 years. Spoke of structural fatigue, limiting further upgrades of the Jaguar. HAL has many questions to answer on this one, and we've been speaking about it in the last few months. Underpowered engines of the Jaguar also red flagged in the CAG report. Reduced payload and performance was highlighted in the 2017 report as well. Now that the court of inquiry has been ordered on the latest crash in Churu, Rajasthan, let's wait for that investigation and for the details to come in now. And on to the next big story on This Is Exclusive. She's an Indian nurse who moved to Yemen in the year 2008. She's now facing execution for the murder of her partner, nurse Nimisha Priya from India, currently in a prison in Yemen. Some reports suggesting that the prison where she's being held is controlled by the Houthi rebels. Days away from execution, July 16 is the date set. And she could be convicted, and she was convicted. She will be executed in a few days from now for a murder that took place in 2017 involving a Yemeni national. Here's a conversation with a negotiator who spoke to Republic TV a few minutes back.
An Indian nurse, Nimisha Priya, who is on a death row in Yemen, is set to be executed on 16th of July. Today, we are being joined by Nimisha Priya's negotiator in Yemen, Samuel Jerome, to understand what lies ahead for her. Thank you, Mr. Jerome, for speaking to us. First, we would like to begin with understanding, has there been any form of communication from the Indian government or any indication of intervention from the Indian side?
The government of India has been a very reliable partner since the beginning. And I have to go back in 2017 where General VK, when I raised up this case to General VK Singh, who was then the Minister of State for External Affairs, he immediately on the same day he intervened and he wrote a note verbal to the Al-Houthi government asking them to bring Nimisha to the due legal process. And that is why she is alive until today. So that you have to understand that very clearly. And since then, the government of India, though they don't have an official, a diplomatic or consular relationship with the Al-Houthis, they are doing their best. So I'm in continuous, the Embassy of India in Saudi Arabia is in continuous touch with me. They have provided, when and wherever, whatever is required, they have done. But at this point of time, I'm putting a request to the government, having clearly known, I'm also a volunteer there, so I know exactly the difficulties there. And I'm putting a request to the government, a very humble request, that if there could be a direct intervention through the government of India, this can be a win situation. So for the sake of life of Nimisha, I'm pleading with the government of India, if they can, please, if they can, that is one thing that it is very difficult for them to do because of the Al-Houthi and the Yemen, the Indian situation. I know that. But then there is a life at stake. And so at this juncture, I have to put this request to the government of India.
Okay. Mr. Jerome, can you please help us understand, are you exploring any other legal or local channel to say prevent or for that matter even delay Nimisha Priya's execution?
So, as you rightly said, the first and foremost thing is to either is to delay or stop the execution. That is the so. Before, I was in India for 3 months. I rushed back to Yemen yesterday. I landed here yesterday. So, day before yesterday, I got a call from the chairman of the prison, and he told me that he has received the order from the public prosecutor's office. So then I called, as you know, the Embassy of India does not have an embassy here in Yemen, but the local staff are still there. So I did call them and I asked them to check the authenticity of this call, and they checked and they found out yes, it was true. Then I immediately informed the Embassy of India and Saudi Arabia, who are actually taking care of Yemen now. So they again called the local staff. The local staff went to the prison and checked on the things, and they have confirmed everything is true. So this is what it is right now. Now, how do we move forward? What has happened since I came yesterday? There are a lot of Yemenis who are willing to help. So what kind of help? See, previously, before I went to India, I was in India for 3 months. So before I went to India, I've met the brother, I've met the father, I've met the brother twice. And there have been several meetings with the intermediaries through sheikhs and all those things. The meeting with the family is to request forgiveness. So there is no money, no discussion can happen there. That is how it is. It's very sensitive. So I did. I did plead for this case, and I asked forgiveness for Nimisha. On the sidelines, I had given an offer. This is not with Save Nimisha Priya committee or anything. This is a gentleman from Kerala who has promised to raise $1 million. So based on that promise, I had given an offer of $1 million. Then there was also it was given as a package. So the second thing is is a sort of medical support. A doctor, a cerebrospinal surgeon in India, he says that he can do 5 surgeries absolutely free
Not the surgery is free. He can take the patient from, he'll pay for even the flight ticket for the patient to fly to India. He will perform the surgeries and rehabilitate them. So this was that was part of the offer. Number 3 was the option of the brother of the victim to migrate to UAE or to Saudi Arabia. Will provide jobs and whatever required. So these are the 3 things that was given as a package. But then you have to understand that we have not heard from them. Now that we have received the execution order, which means that they have already consented to the execution. Without the family consenting to the execution, this order will not be issued. So that is where we stand right now. So how do we move forward? Now we have to find people who can make sense to the family. So that is what is happening since yesterday. I've been contacted by several people. And I'm trying to find whoever is genuine. And because I'm right now in Aden, so I'll be moving to Sana tomorrow. And so I'll be physically meeting these people and to see who are genuine, who are not. What are the genuine help available? And I'll take the route. I'll take the route, and then that is how I will see. So primarily, it is the legal portion is completely finished. So there is nothing legal available. The legal thing is closed when the president of North Yemen.
We're cutting that interview short because we're receiving some breaking news on the India-US trade deal. We were expecting some announcement. Trump has made some comments on a possible trade deal, talking about 10% tariffs added for BRICS countries. But this is a big breaking news update. Government sources now talking about possibilities, saying that there are certain challenges that are obstructing the trade deal. Certain challenges obstructing the trade deal. And that there are certain steps that need to be followed. Among the 7 letters to be sent by Trump today, one could be likely for India. India's national interest is the priority. Very unlikely for the deal to happen today. Now, these are details we're picking up. Challenges obstructing the India-US trade deal is what government sources are confirming, that there are certain challenges that remain in ironing out the contours of the India-America trade deal, and that there are certain steps that still need to be followed. And that among the 7 letters that will be sent by Trump today, the likelihood is that one could be for India, and that India's national interest will be our priority. And government sources confirming that it's very unlikely for the deal to happen or to be announced today. Now, these are details we are picking up. We've had announcements being made by America ahead of the deadline for different countries. The tariffs are being announced one day at a time, one country at a time. And as we hoped for negotiators, and Indian negotiators have been traveling to America, this exercise has been ongoing for several months now. And the team returned last week, and the sources in the government, and some of the negotiators, by the way, included top secretaries in the Commerce Ministry and government sources, now telling Republic that there are certain challenges that remain obstructing the trade deal. I have Chandrakala on the phone line. Chandrakala is joining us for more details. Chandrakala, what are these challenges that you're hearing of?
Well, the fact that speculation is rife regarding the India-US trade deal, that when it is going to be likely to be signed, well, government sources have just confirmed that there are certain challenges that is obstructing the trade deal. Otherwise, the trade deal could have been finalized, and there are certain steps that need to be followed. And most importantly, the 7 letters that Trump is going to send today to maximum of the 7 countries. Among them, one could be likely for India, but also sources have said that, of course, India's stand is very much clear that national interest is the priority, and it's very unlikely, it's very uncertain right now where the deal has reached, whether it could be today or it could be extended. This has been confirmed by the sources, but yes, national interest is the only priority for us right now. And there are certain challenges that is actually obstructing this trade deal. And the important thing is to note that we have to wait for the letters to be sent to Trump, because this has been confirmed that one could be likely for India. Over to you.
Thank you for joining us with those inputs. That's it on this edition of This is Exclusive. Thanks for watching.